Have you ever just looked at your life and thought, this cannot be my life? Or you've looked in the mirror and you're like, who is this person looking back at me? I don't know this person. Just because there's so much that you thought to be different by now. If that's you, then this video is for you, so keep watching. I turned 40 last year, and I want to tell you that I was excited and I was expectant and I was looking forward to the big 4-0. But the truth is, I was dreading my birthday. Like, I spent most of last year like really dreading turning 40, and I was like, how am I 40? What have I done with my life? I've never really been one to care about societal milestones. I've always just lived by my own rules, mine and God's rules. I've always just done things according to my idea of success. But last year, I really started judging myself by society's timelines. And I started asking myself some very serious questions, very depressing questions, because I was sad. I'm not even gonna lie, I was completely sad for most of last year. And I just wanted to hide and not talk to anybody. I just felt like everybody was looking at me with pity and just wondering, like, what's wrong with her? She's so unfortunate. Why is she still this way? It continued that way for most of the year, but then towards the end of the year, a friend of mine started inviting me to watch classic Christmas movies. And one of the movies we watched was It's a Wonderful Life. And in that movie, basically, I'm just going to give, a summary. There's a man who wanted to end his life, and an angel basically walked him through what would happen if he had never existed. And he saw how many people's lives he had impacted and just how much of a difference he had made. And he just saw that his life was meaningful. And it made me really take a good hard look at my life, like through my own metrics of success now. And I really saw that my life had been meaningful. Yes, there's a lot of society's expectations that I have not met, some of them on purpose, because I've just always not liked the idea that somebody somewhere is sitting down and deciding what success should be for me. But it also made me realize that there was so much about my life that was beautiful and meaningful. I also thought about my brother. My brother passed away when he was 35. He had just had a son he barely got to see. And he had been married for just about 2 years. And I just thought about my brother, and as much as I know that another person's struggles don't invalidate your own, thinking about my brother and how amazing it would have been for him to be alive just made me realize that it was wrong for me to have the opportunity and the privilege to be turning 40 and to be just not excited about it. And so I just decided that, I've lived a good life. Everything might not be the way that I want it to be. Everything might not be the way that society expects it to be, but I've lived a very exciting life. And for my birthday, I just went away. I went to a nice resort and I just decided to take stock really of my life. I just looked at everything I had done right. I've done a lot of things right. And I also looked at the things that I could have done better. But again, this video is not about me. This video is about you. And if you feel like you failed, I want to first of all say that your feelings are valid. There are probably things that you expected that would have happened by now that have not happened. There are probably dreams that you have that look like they're never going to come true, but that does not mean that your life means nothing. It doesn't mean that you failed. And I'm just going to walk you through what I did to make me realize that I'm not a failure. Yes, there's some dreams that I have that haven't come true. There's some that I had and they probably will not come true. Like, for instance, I wanted to get married to my childhood sweetheart at 24, and we were both supposed to go to school at the University of Massachusetts. It's never going to happen, right? I'm not 24 anymore. He's moved on with his life. That dream is dead and gone, basically. So some things, and there's some dreams as well that they're dreams you thought you wanted, but you just realize, I never wanted this. How did I decide that I wanted to do this, right? This is not my dream. This is just a dream that I picked up because somebody told me that this is what I should want. And so, we have to be realistic about what dreams you can still hold on to, which ones you have to let go of, right? So I'm just going to walk you through my process of, first of all, your feelings are valid, right? You're not a failure, but I don't want to just tell you that without accepting that you have legitimate disappointments and legitimate fears and pains that made you come to that conclusion, or at least to that idea, right? You have metrics that you're looking at that are telling you because of all these things happening, then you're a failure. So I'm not going to argue with your metrics and I'm not going to argue with your feelings, but I'm going to tell you that let's consider this from a different perspective. The first thing that I did, obviously, was to just accept that I've lived a meaningful life. I thought about my life. I've lived a life of adventure. For me, my greatest nightmare was to live an average life, a boring life. The average life has always frightened me. I've always wanted a life of adventure, and I've lived a life of adventure. And I'm really happy for the life that I've lived because I've made choices, I've taken risks. And so I first of all looked at my life critically, and I realized that I have lived a very meaningful life, a very exciting life. A friend of mine always likes to say that I've lived many lifetimes, which I have. But anyway, that's what I did. I first of all accepted that my life has been meaningful. Not perfect, not everything that I wanted it to be, but meaningful. And I want you to first of all accept that your life has been meaningful. And then we're going to do this exercise. So after I accepted that my life was meaningful and that I should be grateful, right? I believe in gratitude. I try my best not to complain. Again, not saying that your pain is not valid. I'm just saying that's my strategy. I realized a long time ago, I used to deal with like depressive thoughts, and I realized a long time ago that staying in gratitude and not complaining always kept me out of the pit of this despair most of the time. And so I just established this habit of always finding something to be grateful for. It's not toxic positivity for me. It's just my own survival tactic, is to make sure that I instantly switch my mind over to something that I can be grateful for. So that's what I do, right? It can help you. So I now realize that my brother would have given anything to still be here, to be with his son. And I have the privilege to be alive, and I should be grateful for it. And after that, I went away for a little bit for my birthday to a nice quiet place, and I did some self-examination. And I asked myself, okay, you're 40. In the last 10 years, between 30 and 40, what have you done right? And I did a lot of things right. I wrote them down. I have a notebook where I wrote them down. All the things because again, you can do the right things and not get the results you thought you were going to get. But you cannot knock yourself for not getting those results, right? You might need to change your strategy, but at least you tried, right? At least you put effort in to getting the life that you wanted. And so I wrote everything that I'd done right, all the good results I'd gotten, all the risks I'd taken, all the steps I'd taken, all the changes I had made in my life, how I'd improved my behavior, how I'd improved my communication skills, how I'd just become a better person, because I have become a better person. And then on another side of the sheet, I wrote down all the things that I could have done better. And again, there's a decent number of things that I could have done better, right? I could have invested more in personal relationships. Because I went to boarding school really young, I didn't really prioritize personal relationships as much, right? I was very set in my ways because I had to figure things out as a child, very young. And so I always felt like I could only count on myself. And that showed because I didn't invest in personal relationships. Like, it was very easy for me I wanted to move to a new city. I would just go. I wouldn't care about anybody. That was something that definitely I could have done better, is to invest more in like building relationships, like long-term relationships, like actually caring. Because I know I had friends who would be like, oh, you don't miss us. You keep to yourself all the time. And I'd be like, what are you on about? But the truth is that they were right? Whenever I was going through a challenge, because I already had this belief that the only person I can count on is me, I would just cave in and figure things out by myself, and I would alienate all my friends, which again, I could have done that better. I could have done better, right? In terms of romantic relationships, I wasted a lot of time on people that I knew it wasn't going anywhere, right? I'm not gonna date. I didn't even want to marry them, right? So like, and relationships are on and off things that just didn't. It was obvious that they were not going anywhere, but I just wasted time. Again, not regretting things, just taking an honest look at my life. I'm going to encourage you to do that, right? It's going to hurt, but you're also going to be proud of yourself because there's some things that you did right. Don't be critical. Don't be self-critical. It's not possible that you did everything wrong. You did some things right. Ask yourself, what do I want the next 10 years of my life to look like? And I know people say, oh, don't make a 10-year plan. This is not a 10-year plan. When I'm looking at myself at 40, if you're 30 now, you're saying, when I'm looking at myself at 40, what do I want my life to look like, right? Because for me, it was almost like I was caught off guard. Like, I arrived at 40 and I'm like, oh my God, is this really what I wanted to be doing right now? Yes, some things were just lifing, but some other things were because I was wishing for things. I was not sowing any seeds. I wasn't making any investments in that direction. I wasn't intentionally building up to that. And so if you don't want to arrive at the next stage of your life surprised at your destination, you should at least put in some of the seeds that you want to harvest for. That's what I'm saying. You can't control life. You really don't know where you're going to be in the next 10 years, but you can intentionally decide, I want to be better at relationships. And so now I'm putting up with annoying people just because I'm trying to build my own muscle, right? Of just because if you feel like everybody else has a problem, everywhere you go, they're all toxic, then you're the problem, right? Being in a relationship, and this is something I'm learning as well, as somebody who just was so comfortable by myself, being in relationships means you have to open up to people just offending you, you have to be ready to deal with conflict, because there's no perfect relationships, right? Wherever you go, people are gonna rub you the wrong way, especially if you've been by yourself a long time. And you're just gonna, it doesn't mean deal with toxic relationships. It means identify what's toxic and what's just you being I don't want to use sensitive because sensitive is valid. You having a low tolerance for people, right? You've forgotten how to people, right? I was telling my therapist and I'm like, I feel like I've forgotten how to people. I've forgotten that being around people just means you have to, think about everybody's feelings. You have to be careful what you say and that kind of thing. So anyway, take an honest look at your life and ask yourself, okay, what about this where I am now don't I like, that is within my control, obviously, right? And what is not within, forget about what's not within your control. Just invest in the things that you can control. I remember hearing this funny quote one time, but it made so much sense. If you focus on the things you can control, those things will change the things you can't control. Now, yeah, pretty simplistic, but you get the overall message. So just do an honest self-examination of your life and what you like, what you don't like. And then decide how you want the next. For me, I decided how I wanted the next 10 years of my life to look like. But the beautiful thing about that exercise is that it put me back in control, right? Because while I was sitting and dreading turning 40, whether I had dreaded it or not, I would have turned 40 one way or the other. And I could have decided to get to that birthday and hate the rest of my life. But that doesn't make any sense because I'm alive, I'm here. I have a choice. And I think that was another realization that I came to, and it was so beautiful for me because it seems like the simplest thing in the world, but the power of choice. A lot of women don't know that they're just living out choices that have already been made for them, right? Somebody else decided. You think you made that choice, but somebody else decided for you. And it's okay, right? As women, we're built to want community. We're built to just go with the flow, to accept the things that have been set in stone, the cultural practices. Again, if that's what you want, fine. But for me, it's never been what I wanted. I've always wanted to do something different. I've always wanted to do something new, just to explore. What if it can be this way? What if it can be better? And being able to exercise my power of choice, of choosing a different life, of refusing to settle for things just because people told me that's what you have to settle for. I'm so grateful for that. And if you have the power to choose, you should be grateful for that, because there are lots of people who can't choose what they should do with their lives. You have the power of choice, which means if you don't like where you are, you can choose to be in a different place. It sounds simple when people say it, and maybe you think it's annoying, but it's the truth, right? You can make a choice and say, I want a different life. You might not be able to control all the metrics. The beautiful thing about human beings is that a person can decide, this is what I'm going to be, this is who I'm going to be. And if they decide not to give up, if they're persistent enough, right? Even if they don't have exactly what they set out to get, something will be different. Something will change about their lives. Human beings are resilient. They're able to create different outcomes, right? You've seen people that you're like, how did this person get here? How did they do this, right? If you're ready to do whatever it takes, you will get what you want. For me, understanding that I have the power to choose, I could decide that I don't like this and this and this and this. And I can make different choices, more intentional choices. And that was what I did, right? And the beautiful thing about that is it shifted me from this perspective of, oh, I failed, oh, I'm a failure, to there are things that I can do differently. I might not like everything about my life, but I can make better choices. I can do different things, so I can have different outcomes, right? And also, it's very important to proceed with self-compassion. If a friend came to you and said, oh, I feel like a failure, I feel like I failed, what would you say? You wouldn't say, yeah, you have failed, you're a failure. In every sense of the word, it's all over for you. No. You would tell them, this and this and this and this is why I don't agree with you that you failed, right? And you also tell them, right, if you want to give them some tough love, I feel like if you focused on this and if you focused on this, you would, have a better experience, right? I remember speaking to a friend of mine and telling her, like, I don't feel like I've ever felt safe and happy in my life. And she's like, well, I don't agree with you. There must have been a time in your life where you felt safe and happy. But even if you don't, what are you going to do to enrich your life to ensure that you can feel safe and happy? How are you going to take agency, right? Instead of waiting for miraculous things to happen and make you feel safe and happy, how about you decide, what does it take for me to feel safe and happy? And how can I adjust my life to make room for that? I feel like taking back agency and just accepting that I have a choice. It's not going to be easy, but the time is going to pass anyway. And I can decide that the next few years of my life are not going to catch me by surprise. Whatever I don't like, I can change, as long as I can change it, right? And I focus on the things that I can change, and I start working on changing those things. So my advice to you, my honest advice to you, if you feel like you failed, is take an honest assessment, right? Proceed with self-compassion. You have tried your best. No matter what anybody tells you, no matter what society tells you, if you knew better, you do better. You've tried your best. And now, maybe you just need to change your strategy. But the first step is self-compassion. First step is self-compassion. First step is to accept that your life has been meaningful. Your feelings might tell you that your life means nothing and nobody cares about you and you're worthless. But feelings are not facts, right? If you had a conversation with somebody else and you told them how you felt, they'd give you evidence to tell you that your life means something. Accept that your life is meaningful. It is meaningful. It has been meaningful. And your thoughts are not telling you the truth, really, about how meaningful your life has been. If you feel like doing the gratitude practice with me, be grateful. Be grateful that you get to be here, that you get to have another day to do things better, that you have another day to possibly live a life of impact and change somebody's life and do something different. This again is not about measuring yourself, right, by society standards. Another thing I had to do, because when you start feeling sorry for yourself, it's very, very likely that you're measuring yourself by society's metrics or by some external metrics, right? It's also very important to come back into alignment with what's important to you. I had to come back because, I was going through the whole thing, by now, what society says. But then I asked myself, what's really important to me? What dreams do I have that I have not done anything about, that I haven't really invested enough in, that I have abandoned because I was trying to survive, trying to be an adult. And now it's been how many years since I had that dream and I haven't done anything about the dream, right? I had to come back into alignment with what is important to me, right? I was in a meeting recently and, they said, what's your biggest fear, right? And there are a lot of things that society tells you to fear, right? At this age. And for me, my biggest fear was living an average life of no impact. And I was surprised because I'm like, is this what I'm afraid of, right? And so for me, I'm optimizing my life to ensure that I can make impact, that I can make a positive impact everywhere I go, that I'm fulfilling my life's purpose, right? That's what's most important to me. So you also have to come back into alignment with what is important to you. What does a successful life look like to you, right? Instead of just assuming because according to society standards, if you don't have anything by 25, some things by 25, you failed. And that's a dangerous method, right? That's a dangerous metric to judge yourself by. So ask yourself what's really important to you, right? And bring yourself back into alignment with your own idea of success. What's your own idea of success? And start to live, right? Always have that in the back of your mind. This is what is important to me. Because if you are gauging yourself by your own idea of success, then you're able to really, really take control and take steps that will make a difference. But if it's by society's standards, you're always going to fall short. Like, very few people actually live up to society's standards of success. Very few people actually live up to society's standards of success. But I want you to know you haven't failed. You lived a very meaningful life. And even if you feel like you haven't, you have a choice to begin to live a meaningful life from today. Make more intentional choices and build the life of your dreams. One of my favorite quotes, or it's a lyric from The Greatest Showman, is, I can live in a world that I design. I love that so much because it means that I can choose. I can say, I want to be this person. I want to be this person. This is who I want to be. These are the kind of people that I want around me. And I can slowly, like a design, right? If you use Canva, you know that sometimes you have a font that you don't really like, you have colors you don't really like, you have, a bunch of things, elements all over the place that you don't like, but you can change them. You can change the font, keep changing it until you find something you like. You can keep changing the colors until you find something you like. You can keep changing the elements until you find something you like. Again, the power of choice. So choose differently. If you don't like the design that you have now, the life that has been designed for you or that you've designed for yourself, change the design. You're not a failure. Your life has meaning and the world is better because you're here. Unless you're R. Kelly or some pervert. unless you're a perv. Anyway, so if you feel like you failed, my honest advice to you is, first of all, don't believe your thoughts. They're lying to you. And secondly, change the design of your life. You have the power to choose. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, you can check out my video on my honest advice to anyone who feels left behind in life or something like that. It's going to be linked up here. Thank you so much for joining me. Bye.